Read as part of a book exchange with my good friend Ryuichi Hasegawa, I got to read Cornwell's masterwork. He got to be introduced to the grimdark future of the 41st millennium. And although I probably would have gotten round to reading it eventually, being as I am a fan of Cornwell, I think it worked out better this way. As with many of Cornwell's novels, this story has two distinct tiers to it. The first tier is the overarching plot of the events leading up to and culminating in the Battle of Azincourt, which, as a brief history lesson, can be summarised thusly. The second tier is, if you like, the grunt's eye view of everything. Here we follow the rise of Nicholas Hook, Forester and Archer, as he gets caught up in events far beyond his control, leaving him with two very simple choices: fight or die. Traditional third person throughout, Cornwell writes with the confidence of a man who knows exactly what it is he's talking about. Having said that, I did get a sense that he was rushing things, certainly early on, in that 20 miles of travel on foot across France, complete with encounters with the natives, was handled in about 2 paragraphs, one of which seemed to be a very long sentence. Yes, those bits are the dull bits, but stylistically it jarred ever so slightly. If I'm to be 100% honest here, as I was reading this book, the word Sharp kept popping into my head. Nick Hook couldn't be more like Richard Sharp if he tried. Bastard son of a peasant, hobnobbing with the powerful, first-class soldier, makes enemies by trying to do the right thing. It's almost uncanny. Not that this is a bad thing, you understand. In fact, I personally choose to believe that Nick Hook is Richard Sharp's ancestor. But that's still ever such a slight shame, because despite a few stylistic choices I personally found annoying, this is still an excellent novel. There are two things that Cornwell excels at more so than most others I've read. The first, and most vital given his usual subject matter, is how he writes battles. It's deeply detailed when it needs to be, letting you know exactly what it is these men had to do to survive and win, but he also knows when to leave the detail and just say, and they died. You wince when characters get split in two, you flinch when arrows strike home. It sounds a little poncy, but you can, on occasion, feel the battle. The pounding of cavalry charges, the whistling of arrows, the churning of mud, the screams of the dying. There are few who do the chaos of battle better. The second is the characters and their interactions with each other. Again, as with the battles, you can feel the characters, you can feel their anger, their frustration, their pain and sorrow, their joy and happiness. The best in this novel, hands down, is Sir John Cornwell. Pretty much every time he opened his mouth, lumps of fried gold slid out and left me with a grin on my face, if not cracking up. If I was to tell you why this guy is so great, I'd give away half the plot. Suffice to say that, if England had had more men like him, France would be, in its entirety, English right now. Cornwell also has some skill at writing complete and utter bastards, of which this book contains several, all presenting faults and obstacles to Nick Hook. Much like with Hook being an ancestor of Sharp, there's one character who is likely the ancestor of Sergeant Obadiah Hakeswell. And again, much like with Sir John, if I told you my favourite parts, it'd ruin the other half of the plot. The historical note after the main story needs a slight mention here. Normally these are damned interesting, as they often offer some insight into the period or event in question that is not present in the novel proper, for obvious reasons. On this occasion it seemed slightly pointless. There were only 2 real liberties taken with the whole series of events, such was the closeness of Cornwell's depiction. And parts of the historical note read like rejected drafts from the main novel. All in all, despite 1 or 2 stylistic annoyances, this is a superb novel that is well worth your time. Highly recommended, especially if you'd like a better idea as to how tired and starving Englishmen could kick the crap out of the cream of the French aristocracy.